All right, I'm gonna try to zoom in here a little bit. If you can see, we're tuning the knife in with the spring. You'll notice our dial test indicator is on 0 in the open position. And what we're doing is we want to make this transition from the spring that we've made to the knife blade. We want that to be smooth in the open position, the half cock position, half stop position, and the closed position. So in order to do that, we set it to 0. Make sure it's hitting 0. If you can see the needle moving there, we're right on 0. Now, since we don't have a load on it as of yet, we want the half stop position to be around 4 to 5 thousandths, which it is. As you can see, we're about 4 thousandths right there in the half stop position. And when we close, we want about 4 to 5 thousandths. And as you can see, we're right on the money at 4 thousandths, actually 5 thousandths in the closed position. So we've got 0, about 4 thousandths, and 5 thousandths. And you can see in this area right here that our blade's not touching the spring. And when we put this pin into the liners, it's going to throw some pressure on the spring, and this will be a little bit closer. We may have to do a little bit more grinding on the back spring. However, at this point, we have got the knife tuned pretty close. So the Ruppel gauge, designed by Bill Ruppel, and this is just a version that I made myself. I milled it out of aluminum and put me an indicator in it and made these parts. And so we can manipulate the blade and put different sizes in here. As you can see, this piece slides. And so anyway, that's how we tune the slip joint pocket knife. This is always a critical point. This is where we're putting our layout fluid on in order to scribe a line to cut it out. And as you can see, we're working with stainless. This is actually 50 thousandths stainless steel 410 alloy that we're going to make the liners for this pocket knife out of. Of course, there'll be decorative filing in them, and I'll show that point as well shortly. Come back when we get this dry. And so our Dychem fluid is dry now, and what we're going to do is scribe a line with our cardboard pattern that I cut out a few weeks ago when I started making this pattern. I'm going to leave a little bit of length on it, because we better to be too long and too short, we can grind it off. I'll just flip this pattern over and try to save as much of my stainless steel as I can. Actually, I'm going to do it the same way, because I want to add a little length onto it. You don't want to get too close to that edge of the other liner, or you'll be, because some of the material will be removed with the bandsaw blade whenever you cut through it. So you got to have enough room to make that cut and not affect the other liner. Now, I used to do this with a magic marker, but I found that and not use this Dychem fluid, but I found that using the Dychem fluid makes for a lot easier to see the scribe lines as you're working. Now we'll go over to the bandsaw and cut those liners out. All right, as you can see, this is a Portaband saw that I just made a plate for and locked it down in a vise. A lot of people do this, and I've got a big bandsaw that I use for wood, but this cuts, and then we've got another horizontal bandsaw. This is really handy for cutting these liners out, so we'll go ahead and do that. So anytime I'm grinding in the shop, I'm always wearing respirator because you do not want stainless steel or any other type of steel getting into your lungs. So I'm gonna put this on and we'll go from there. If you'll notice, I'm dipping this in water to keep it cooled off down here. If you don't, it'll overheat. Okay, look over my clutter here. This is some 220 sandpaper. This is a flat granite stone that I've got. We're gonna put some WD-40 onto the 220, and then we're gonna take our liners that we just ground out and got close to where they're going. We're gonna get this fuzz off of them, seal burrs off of them right quick. And when you're sanding these, you want to do either figure 8 or circle patterns. Twist them around every now and then. You don't want to get the liners to where they're not parallel. Of course, these are pretty tough steel, the stainless steel. It's still, you can get them uneven very easily. Ask me how I know. From lots and lots of sanding and trying to do it on power machines. You can't do this with power to it or you will mess these liners up. It has to be done by hand at this point to get the burrs off. What we're going to do after we get these down, get the burrs off of them, we're going to actually put some tape on them, super glue them together, and take them over and put them back on the grinder to make them exactly the same. So get back to you in a few minutes. Okay, at this point, what I like to do is tape these suckers together. Actually, we put some tape on each side opposite of each other. And then we're going to super glue the two liners together where we can take them back over to the grinder and manipulate both of them at the same time so they'll be exactly the same. The way I get this neatly done, I've got a little cheap razor knife, and I'll actually take and just go around the edges and peel that stuff off of your liner. Like so. Get all the excess off of the edges like that. I'll bring you back in just a minute and show you what we do after that. So we've got some CA glue, which is fancy super glue, and we've got some accelerator. So the way I do this, and I didn't come up with this idea, one of the YouTubers, we'll put our super glue on one of the liners and just kind of spread it out good where it's all over it. And what I actually do to make sure it's covered really good is I will actually take the other liner, put the tape side, and rub them together just a little bit. Now this is super glue, so it bonds quickly, but it bonds even quicker with accelerator. So I will get it ready on the edge of my table, accelerate it really quick, put them together, because it's going to bond instantly. Try to line them up as close as you can with the backs and the length of them, and hold tight. And you can tell one of them's a little bit bigger than the other. So once we get these super glued together, we can take them back over to the grinder, grind them at the same time, and put the finishing edges on, and they'll be exactly the same then. And that's what we want. We want two liners that are identical. The reason I use the tape and the super glue, when we get ready to take them back apart, you just take a razor blade and bring them apart, and you don't have to deal with all that glue on the metal. So it's a neat trick that I learned from one of the YouTubers. I think it may have been Chris Crawford. I've learned a lot from him. He is a guy that does very good videos, Chris Crawford. So anyway, I'll bring you back when we get this done. Okay, I've been over to the 2x72 grinder now. As you can see, they're still glued together, but they're perfectly identical twins, as you can see. And that's finished to a 220 now. We will leave these liners together for our next few steps, and I'll get back to you then.